Welcome to Puck Talk CS. I'm Matthew Mugno alongside Steve Murno, the Chives man, the Steve man. Alex Wennberg comes up with a huge overtime winning goal. I think we just break it down from there, Steve-O.
I say we do. So, Chives, let's do it. Let's talk some puck, baby.
Yeah, all right. So game 3 is a swing game, and we've seen that through every single endeavor this Rangers team has gone through, a club in recent memory has gone through. You think about game 3 against Tampa 2015, game 3 against the Devils, game 3 against Tampa again in 22. All those, it's like swing states in politics. There's only a few that the election always hinges on, and it's the same in a series. So for the Rangers to win a game that really, I don't think a lot of the rhetoric lately is they didn't deserve. I don't believe that. You're in the playoffs, any team can win. But by the numbers, it was obvious this was not a team that looked like it was going to win this game, especially in that third period. But Steve-O, let's rewind a little bit and talk about the entire game. Barkley, Gretzky, Alexis Lafreniere, first overall pick with a few first overall goals. The Rangers are hanging in, and they're now leading a series where after game 1, we were hoping they would adjust and come out with a little more inspired game.
Gotta give you credit for that analogy there. That was a good analogy with connecting the politics to the hockey. You're always money with those. But you're right. This was such an important game for the Rangers to win because if Florida were to win this game, then it just feels like a whirlwind effect where it's just, all right, we're back to chasing again. Now the Rangers would have to win the next game to avoid going down 3-1. And you didn't want to do that. Florida jumped down in game 1. You don't want to constantly go up in a roller coaster and then go right back down, So I think this game was so important from that standpoint where the Rangers now have control of the series. And let's see, this Florida Panther team is so good with puck possession. They're just better with the sticks. I mean, I'll flat out say it honestly. It feels like, there was a lot of examples in this game where whether it was Panarin or Roslovic, Kreider, Mika, pucks were not lying on our sticks. With the Panthers, pucks were going right to the sticks. They were much better with that. But I think let's see now the Rangers have the lead in the series. Let's see if Florida comes out and the Rangers could take momentum and kind of change the way they play. I thought this game was so key in that sense. And let's break it down chronologically, like you said. This game starts off. I thought the Rangers had a little bit of a jolt to start this game, and then the momentum switches right back to Florida and the defense, not only in the first was bad, but the defense throughout the rest of the game was not particularly strong. Keandre Miller had, I don't want to say bad game, but his first period was horrible. He obviously he failed to clear the puck in both of the first 2 goals on the power play, and Sam Reinhart netted 2 there. So all around the defense just not good, Chives. That's not going to cut it.
I also want to credit players like, I think that Barkov line, he's a stud. And I know he was won Selkes before, and he was considered that, he's underrated. He had the most underrated player in the league tag for a long time. It seems like that's vanished, especially when they went to the Cup last year. I think his line has been the best. I think Barkov is actually, I always thought Kachuk's game was a little more bombastic, like in your face. I think Barkov in this series, the first 3 games, has certainly had an impact. Part of that is when Reinhart, Barkov, even Kachuk, they worked the puck out of the corners, and I noticed they were attacking the goal posts. And that's how they scored the first 2 goals. They drew plays where they moved. They had their inside shoulder on their backhand facing the defenseman and Igor. So they were protecting the puck and attacking by coming from either behind the net, not necessarily in the trapezoid or Gretzky's office, but from those corners. And they were working it, and that's how they scored 3 of their goals. Later, the Barkov off the gloves goal, that was also generated on an opportunity where they attacked the posts. So I give credit to their game plan because I think they found a place to expose the Rangers, and they did. And it was certainly obvious on those first 2 goals. Now, with that, on the flip side of the coin, the defense did not look great. The offense, I think, for the Rangers came through in this game most of all, right? A 5-4 hockey game. You called the last pod. You said, I'm expecting a little more high scoring. It starts with it was a choppy game too. Lafreniere breaks in with that goal, the first goal, and then Barclay Goodrow tips home the second goal. 2 goals in 25 seconds, Steve. And you said it perfectly before we hopped on. A roller coaster of emotions. Summarize that for me.
Yeah, I said it to you before we hopped on. I mean, I just about, and I think I speak for every Ranger fan, I felt every single emotion you could possibly feel, besides tired during
Yeah.
that game. Maybe tired. I was tired of watching our defense play the last 5 minutes in the third, but I felt every emotion there. I mean, there was excitement, there was upset. I mean, there was anxiety for sure, and we pulled through. And I want to go back to the point you made with Barkov. I mean, it's nothing we don't expect. I mean, he's such a good player. But another thing you mentioned, post to post behind the net, the Panthers were taking a lot of pucks from out behind the net and doing a lot of wraparounds. And
Mm-hmm.
Barkov did it. I don't watch a lot of Florida Panthers during the regular season, so I don't know if that's Barkov's move going around the net, but he had at least 5 or 6 opportunities where he took the puck around from behind the net and shot it on a wraparound. So, and I saw Reinhardt did it, I saw Verhage do it, and I saw Bennett do it. So that's something to watch because I'm not sure if the Panthers think that they could beat Igor behind the net, but that is something to watch moving forward, Chives. But I know a lot of people are giving Truber grief. Actually, I'll let you chip in there before I move on to the
No, I
next
agree.
point.
I think that, like you mentioned, we're kind of talking about their game plan. And I think the Panthers made adjustments, and I think the Rangers are going to have to respond to that because they got 3 goals out of those plays. And they were very intelligent plays to use their body as a shield and also kind of get pucks to the net where you're not going to beat Igor clean. But the first goal, didn't necessarily beat him clean, but it's a bouncing puck. And it's deceptive because the backhand's a hard shot to face if you're a goaltender. Now, with that, Steve-O, talk about the roller coaster of emotions between the penalties as well, which I think you were about to allude to with Jacob Trouba. I thought his play was solid tonight. We know that elbowing came into play later in the game, but how'd you feel overall about the back end as a whole?
Man, you know me so well. That's exactly what I was going for. You teed me up. A lot of people give Truber grief, and I've seen a lot of people on Rangers Twitter being like, Truber needs to be benched. I mean, yeah, the penalties were not good, but overall, beside from the penalties, I thought Truber had a very strong game
Mm-hmm.
defensively. But not only that, to set up that first Loft goal, we'll get to Loft in a second, but that first Loft goal, that came from a big pass from Truber and from the defensive end. So that was pretty crucial there. I mean, I thought Truber overall had a really good game. I thought in some points in corners when Keandre and Miller were struggling, Truber wasn't. And Truber had a lot of big plays. Especially he had a good play in Chuck in the third. I thought Truber's been very well defensively. I know I kind of cut him up a little bit in last episode, or maybe it was in the Eastern Conference preview, but Truber's been very good, Chives.
Yeah, now I think the key to this team is that they're gaining contributions from everyone. One guy I wanted to also talk about, actually, you know what? I'll save my comment on Lingard for in a little bit because I think we got to talk about that second Lafreniere goal. That's a first overall goal from a first overall player in a crucial time. I said it last episode, I'll say it again. He doesn't feel like a kid anymore. He feels like an integral part of this team. I think Alexis Lafreniere is reaching that cornerstone status on this bridge contract. And I think before the season, we didn't expect that. During the season, he raised his game, but I feel he's been playing his best hockey night in and night out in this postseason. If he's not contributing on the score sheet, which he has, he's contributing with the hit last game that caused the first goal. His physicality, he gets into the corners. He's not afraid of doing things like that. I think Lafreniere, his impact is beyond one dimension. And I think for a 22-year-old, that is incredible for this team to earn not only the small detailed play, but also the huge goals. I mean, the second goal, he walked through the entire Panthers team.
Yeah, two things I've mainly been very strong on him with is puck possession.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Lafreniere's had great puck possession and his speed. Those are two elements to his game that he's really been able to elevate in the postseason, and he's kind of been able to fill in the bubble where Panarin's not been able to show. In the Carolina series, Lafreniere had some big plays and some big goals too early on in that series, as to where Panarin has not. And I'm very happy that Lof's taken that step. You go back to a little puck talk preview in the beginning of the season. We said, what were the main points? Lof, Hedel, Kakko. That was when Laviolette in his presser when we first brought him on board. That was one of the main things that was stressed as a focal point in the season. And I'm just glad Lof has blown that expectation out of the water. Hedel and Kakko, not so much. That's more of an off-season thing. But Lafreniere gets the rubber stamp of approval. He's made such a big impact, Chives.
All right, we got to talk about impact players. Barclay Goodrow, 5 of the last 15 goals in the postseason. He had 4 in the regular season. He's up to 6 in the playoffs. 3 in the last 2 games. I mean, we're not just talking scrum goals. I know in his time in Tampa, he was a really effective player, 5-tool. He was an Allen wrench, and that's why they brought him in for those 2 cup rings. I think what's impressed me the most about his last 2 performances these are legitimate goal scoring plays. I mean, the overtime goal, which we talked about last episode, the tip in was world class, almost the exact same goal he scored against Carolina in game 4. The tip in, Braden Schneider shot from the point, same assist man, and just finds the back corner. And I think the shorthanded goal blew me away. Trocheck created that play. And with that, Trocheck's also been a motor for this team, and I think he's probably the team's most valuable player outside of Igor. We'll save that for a moment as well because I want to hear your thoughts on Goodrow. I know he's a player, like we said, he always takes heat, and I think he's really become – in the last few games, he cemented himself as a key player on this team.
Well, I can guarantee you there's no Ranger fan in Rangers universe that is going to be giving him heat after this one because, again, he has more goals right now in the playoffs than Connor McDavid, and he's come to play. And listen, you point to players who's going to step up, especially in overtime, especially in big moments. You look at, Mika, Kreider, Panarin. No, it's Barclay Goodrow, and that's somebody to play 80 games and to only score, 4 times?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to come in the playoffs now and to be, like you said, Barclay Gretzky, I mean, it's been awesome. His impact has been so big, but I can't highlight this enough, Chives. What did all of these goals have in common? The Barclay's OT winner in game 2, Barclay's shorthanded goal. They came off the stick of Vinny T. And Vinny T, I mean, these goals don't happen without Vinny T. I mean, he is creating these opportunities himself. Vinny T is the catalyst to this offense. And in the regular season, you would say, no, it's Panarin. No, it's Kreider. No, it's Vinny T. Vinny T, he's been our best player in these playoffs. I mean, whether it's, I could sit here and break down 6 different aspects of his game. I'm not going to because he's been that good. But Vinny T, such a dog. And again, that shorthanded goal of Barclay Goodrow doesn't happen if it doesn't come off the stick of Vinny T, because that hustle really was all him right there.
Yeah, he created that play. He got into the zone. He stole the puck. He wrapped around the boards, and he found Goodrow cutting in. I don't know if it was off the bench, but he certainly came flying into the zone, and I think his vision's been great. Trocheck's had a point on all 3 overtime goals for the Rangers. He did not on the overtime goal that came later in this game, but the game really opened up. This, to me, had a Ottawa Senators game 2 vibe. The Rangers go into the third up 4-2. And now we get into the third period, and they just lean back on Igor Shesterkin. He had another phenomenal performance. There were 108 shot attempts in total at the end of the game. He made 34 saves, and I don't think there was one bigger than the save on Tkachuk. But that last 7 minutes, icings, penalties taken. The Rangers surrender 2 goals, and now it's a tie game. It really felt like it was favoring the Florida Panthers, but Shesterkin is the Rangers' white hope in that moment. Steve-O, how would you summarize Igor's not I wouldn't say importance, we all know that level, but how would you summarize Igor's performance in that crucial moment? Because that seemed like he was channeling prime Lundqvist.
You said it to me before the pod, and that was just straight up torture. Watching our defense absolutely collapse. I mean, Vinny T was on the ice there for 2 minutes and however many seconds. Gustafson was caught on the ice for a while, and so was Lindgren. And we were just, I don't think there was like a minute and a half span where not one of our players touched the puck. But it didn't matter because Igor came to play. Man, was that goaltending insane. I mean, we left him out to dry. I generally felt really bad for him, but it doesn't matter because he didn't break. I mean, I think it was 108 to 44 in the shot attempts. I mean, straight up, that's just embarrassing. And again, if you go back, if you're listening to this, go back and watch the highlight reel of the last 5 minutes. When you're in the moment, you don't realize how many saves he made. Like I
Yeah.
just watched it before jumping on here, Chives. I counted 7 shots or 7 good scoring chances where you're like, oh my god, how did they not score? They hit 2 posts and the Chachuk one too with 30 seconds. I mean, that would have changed the momentum of the series. So I want to hear what you think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, this is why I agree with you because I kept saying this is a swing game because this is a game that you had the 4-2 lead in. And we've seen time and time again when this team loses a momentum swinging game, whether it's on the road or at home, you think Dougie Hamilton overtime, game 3, you think Andre Palat 22. You think in that Ottawa series, they were up 4-2 on that unreal Brady Shea goal. They give up 2 goals. JG Pajot scores the overtime winner. And you think about how that changed the rest of the series, how those games were played. That's what I felt in that moment. But this team feels different because the command that they have on these games is different. They bent and all to the point where they almost snapped, but they didn't. And that came in the hands of Igor Shesterkin. I think when that propels the team, they did not die. They did not roll over. And like you said, if Matt Tkachuk sneaks that one in, which I thought he scored, I think this series would have been very different. You're down 2-1 now. Instead, we get to overtime. Barkov and Verhaeghe in 2-on-1 off the opening faceoff. They move Lafreniere up the lineup, but that is not the important factor. 3 players who were heavily criticized are on the ice with Ryan Lindgren, who you don't really expect offense from. And they come up with the overtime winning goal. Alex Wennberg, according to Statboy Steve, is the first trade deadline acquisition to score in overtime of the conference finals since Mateau did in 1994. I'm not huge on the 94 comparisons, but it's incredible that it's been that long since a trade deadline acquisition scored that very specific statistic. But Steve, the overtime goal wasn't very clean. They win the faceoff. Wennberg actually is tied up. Who comes in to support? Rosovic and Kakko, who was scratched last game, and Wennberg, the most unlikely overtime hero for the second time in a row, comes up with the big goal.
And how did they score? It was Wennberg in front of the net. And that is something that we really haven't exploited with Bob being in front of the net. We'll get to that later on as we move on to to preview game 4. But Wennberg, that is something he was very good at in Seattle. He was known. We have Kreider as our in front net guy. When Wennberg was over in Seattle, that's what Wennberg was known for, getting in front of the net. And we haven't really seen that. I think largely that's to blame because of his role on this team. He doesn't have to be that kind of player, but he's great in front of the net. And we haven't really seen that. And again, that's something we could exploit for Bob, because Bob is great. He had a great first 2 games, but in this game, he didn't have a good game. And that's something that I think we could take away. Yes, you had an amazing Lafreniere goal. You had a shorthanded goal. But Bob wasn't that great. And again, we didn't throw a lot of shots his way either. So again, it's kind of like in that Carolina series. Yeah, we're not playing Anderson, but we also didn't test Anderson a whole lot much. I want to move now to some critiques now. Unless you have another thing to add about Wennberg.
One last thing, not on Wennberg, on the assist to that goal. Ryan Lindgren assisted the Game 6 hat trick goal for Chris Kreider. Oh. There he is. Lost for a second, Steve-O. I think I want to tip the cap to Ryan Lindgren. He had the assist on the Game 6 goal against Carolina, Chris Kreider's series-winning goal. And he has the assist again tonight. And this is a player that how many times do we see him leave the ice? How many times do we see him, he's got cuts we don't even know where they're from on the bench. He took a heavy hit a few times in this game and found a way to get back onto the ice, blocked the shot and could barely skate, got back onto the ice, and he assists the overtime winner tonight. So I think Ryan Lindgren, no, I'm not saying he's this offensive defenseman, Cale Makar, Adam Fox's partner. But the fact he's come up in these big moments cannot be understated enough. The fact that Ryan Lindgren's on the score sheet for two of the biggest goals in this playoffs is just adds to the depth of this team. Have to tip my cap to him. Well, Steve, if we're going to turn towards the parts we weren't so proud of, where would you start?
I want to throw in Adam Fox too. Adam Fox, I thought had a very good game as well. But the parts we're up 2-1, but as we've seen last 2 years ago, that could change instantly. And this is a very good Florida team. If Florida goes back to New York and it's 2-2, they are still very much. You can make the case they're in the driver's seat. So this is very close. What do the Rangers have to do as we move to Game 4? I want to bring up some really quickly. The narratives, the Rangers stole this game. The Rangers did not steal this game. We were up 4-2. To me, you steal a game, you come from behind. We went down. We didn't go down, but the game was tied 4-4. So to me, the Rangers didn't steal this game. The Rangers, again, I'm kind of tired of this narrative. I don't know if you could agree with me, but Game 1, the Rangers are right in it. And the narrative is like, oh, the Rangers played a bad game. The Rangers have been they're playing their game. You have to be doing things right. And I think, yes, there was a lot of things that didn't break, but went wrong here. But again, our main piece, Igor, was still in there. So again, you could chip in your thought here before we start critiquing some things. But on that point, I really think that our game has been pretty strong.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think the two things that they need to do are one, the screens in front, which I want you to take that away. And the thing I'll say is I think that this team, the power play has to be better. It just has to be better. You cannot have the opportunities they had and not put them away. And granted, they've been winning games, but it's directly a correlation from the players. I think as Ranger fandom agrees, the media agrees, has not really shown up. They're the same players that are being deployed as our power play one unit. They have to get going because it is sensational that Barclay Goodrow and Alex Wennberg and Alexis Lafreniere and Igor are performing the way they are. But there's no passengers at this point, especially when you're as dominant as a power play as the Rangers have had. They have to find a way to even make it a threat that if the Panthers take a penalty, they're already saying, we got to kill this one off. I don't think that's what they say when they get to the bench. I think it seems very routine for them. I think the Rangers' penalty kill has been phenomenal. But on the other end, the Zibanejad, the Kreider, the Panarin, they have to get going. And I think Panarin and Fox are struggling with the ice shrinking on them. And I think it's something that they're going to have to work on, in short time because the series is now mid-series and there's no better time to get crucial power play opportunities than this. And part of that is net front presence. I mentioned on top of it how the Panthers were exposing our low posts and the Rangers need to adjust that as well. We'll see how that goes next game. But I think, Steve-O, what you said hit the nail on the head with screens in front of Bob because I also think for Igor, they're not scoring clean goals on him. They're scoring goals on mistakes by the defense where he's left exposed, or really from bounces and odd bounces. With that, it's the same with Bob. Steve-O, take away what you were going to say about those screens.
Yeah, wow, it's almost like we predicted this on the last episode with our keys to the game. Oh, wait, I think we might have. But again, screens is so important. I was getting very frustrated. I don't know if this was a system play, if this was a Kreider thing, if this was Lobby's decision, but Kreider not once during game 3 was in front of that net. Even on the power play, he was not in front of the net. He was playing in the corner. He was playing on the point. That's not Kreider's game. He's not going to do anything from there. And again, he didn't. And that just goes to show you. And again, not just Kreider, too. Panarin, Lindgren, a lot of our guys are trying to shoot way from the point, and it gets blocked, or it doesn't even get through. It gets deflected, and then here comes an odd man rush. Can't shoot from the point. It's not going to work. Hasn't worked all season long. It worked against the Washington Capitals. Himmy Veezy, sad to see him go, but Himmy Veezy scored a goal against the Washington Capitals from the point. That's not going to work here, so we got to stop doing that. Wennberg gets in front of the net. Bam, he scores the OT winner. Kreider's got to get back to his office, and it's going to be very hard, Chives, to win this series. Yes, we're up 2-1, but all of our role players have stepped up here in the absence. It's going to be hard to win this series, Chives, when Mika, Kreider, and Panarin are all currently sitting with 0 points right now. Not only that, but they're not noticeable. Kreider, not noticeable. Mika, I thought, was much more noticeable, especially on the penalty kill. And he had a couple, believe it or not, he had a couple of good chances in this game. But again, Panarin, these are the guys that I'm pointing to. They have to show up. I mean, whether it's game 4, whether it's game 5, game 6. Listen, if we're waiting for a grand finale in the series and they're all going to break out at once, even better. But again, it's going to be so hard to do it because Verhaeghe is good. Barkov is waking up. Reinhardt is good as ever. Chuck's getting great looks. It's only a matter of time before, he starts hitting these. And how about Tarasenko, Chaz? He's been quiet. I mean, he's done nothing up to this point. He got benched for 5 minutes today in the third. You have to think at some point he's going to do something. Rodriguez is sniffing around the net. So you kind of see the parallel here again. Rangers top dogs not showing. Florida's top dogs are showing, but the Rangers depth is adding a little bit more to that layer. So I'll give you the final word here. Game 4. What is Chives looking from this lineup? This is the big question. Do you go back to a Matt Rempe on the road, game 4? What are you looking for, Chives?
You know what I'm looking for? I'm looking for what we just said. I think more in tone to the power play and to the big dogs, because the depth has come through incredibly. You can't ask any more from them, really. With that, paintbrushes versus Allen keys. You got the Allen wrenches are doing more than we're paying them to. The paintbrushes got to paint the Mona Lisa for us. And I think the Rangers, it's individual efforts, I think, that are going to come to that. But it's also the line play, 5-on-5, and the power play. And we're talking about all of the PP1 players. Our quarterback, the second quarterback of that, and a player who I think all season, the slap shot position that Zibanejad has been in his entire career as a Ranger, it just isn't working. And I found it hasn't really been as strong this season as it was in past seasons. Teams I think have kind of, I wouldn't say figured out the Rangers power play, but they certainly are more accustomed to playing them and understanding what they're coming at you with. And yeah, with that, I mean, you think about the players that got on the score sheet tonight. Braden Schneider, Will Cooley had an assist. Jack Roslovic assist. Jacob Trouba 2 assists. Ryan Lindgren 2 assists. Barclay Goodrow 2 goals. I mean, the list goes on of the guys that you just don't expect that offense from, but it's such a bonus and double when you get that from them. But at the same time, you look and you say, well, Zibanejad -1. It's just, you need more from those guys. And we've been saying that, and they've been coasting. But like you said, if Florida wins game 4 and it's a tie series going back to New York, the pressure then jacks up tremendously on those guys. So you want to get in a groove before you feel that come your way. I'm not speaking that for the player's perspective. It's not like I played in the NHL or really a high level, an elite level of hockey, but I think the pressure from the outside and I think the talk will certainly be more focused on individuals. They lose the next game and those guys don't really have an impact on it.
I think it's fair to say if we don't see Blake Wheeler in game 4, you probably won't see him for the rest of the series. I think for me, last note, I think you probably can play Rempe in game 4 now that you're up 2-1. You just have to be mindful, though, that it's a close game. He's not going to get any ice time. So if you're okay with that over Hot Braun or Blake Wheeler, again, Blake Wheeler, the fact that he hasn't played yet, I'm optimistic. I don't know what you're going to get at him. But Hot Broad, maybe he's, fresh legs. You don't want to tire this team out if you know you're not going to play Rempe late in the game. But that all remains to be seen, Chives. Rangers lead the series 2-1. No better way to enter the Memorial Day weekend. Game 4 could be a series changer. Only 2 games away from the Cup. However, it's not going to be that easy. We'll be back on the other side to wrap it up for you. Always remember, it's just the luck of the puck.